Hi John, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad, buddy. Not bad.
Good man.
How's you?
Yeah, man, not bad. It's March the 21st already. It's enjoying time, mate. I'm very happy. So,
It definitely feels like spring is sort of here.
well, sort yeah, that was the key word. Sort of.
Yeah, I'm not tempting fate.
Yeah, please don't.
Cool. Obviously, there's been a lot going on, and I know we chatted off video about this topic, but I think it's important. We're two blokes talking about what's going on in the social media with everything that sadly happened with Sarah Everard, and they're just the vibes at the moment. And yeah, not all men and not all men in, but enough. I just wonder what your sort of thoughts on what's being said at the moment.
Obviously, first and foremost, our condolences go out to Sarah's family and friends, but it's a difficult one really because there's a lot going on, and I haven't really kept up to date with everything, if I'm being honest. But the police protests, and my brother was a police officer, and I I'm not saying I'm sticking up for the police by any stretch, but I often wonder like what they've been advised, why they act how they act. I'm sure they don't. Well, I know sometimes people will do it on what's the word, emotion or fear, or not following orders. But and then you hear things that there's talk, or I don't know if it's like hearsay or whatever, but curfews of 6 p.m. and you think like it's 2021, and but there's been habits of this behaviour, unfortunately. Well, over time, hasn't there? With the stuff that happened in the was it the Yorkshire Ripper? It was, wasn't it? Um,
Mm, yeah.
70s or 80s, and then I'm sure there's been many other incidences. But for me, it's just sort of kind of like how I sort of want to portray myself, how I want to act as a bloke, let's say, and um, you know, and women are integral to society, profession, like my life personally, with two very young girls myself, and my nan, my mum, my auntie, sister, so on and so forth. And I don't know, mate. It's just
I suppose I'm gonna throw some questions at you really to try and provoke that sort of thought pattern, but because I know where I stand, I'm just curious. We haven't really had an in-depth conversation about it, and wonder how this resonates with everybody at the moment. It's more like, well, how do you feel when I've seen loads of comments, as an example, Stuart, of men feeling very defensive about those hashtags, and lots of women coming out talking about well, they've had to live their life like this, always walking around with keys in their hands, and pretending to talk to people on the phone, and just. But then people are commenting and reacting, and blokes being very defensive about this situation. And I just wonder what your thoughts are on, why do you feel there's a need to be so defensive?
yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of people assuming, like tarnish with the same brush. Like it's unfortunately some men, blokes, have made some very bad choices and bad decisions, which in effect affect blokes in general. And part of me thinks that people who may not have acted like that, or well, not may, don't act like that. Excuse me, don't behave in that manner, but kind of feel the need to sort of defend it instead of
Yeah, I just find it really curious, Stuart, just because the reality is, I just can't picture why, you know, a bloke is sitting there feeling the need to defend himself, keyboard warrior, texting a comment on somebody's outpouring of how they're feeling, and what their experience has been. And if you put that into different contexts, it's just a really bizarre. I know that's the world we live in, really, unfortunately, that people can comment and hide, if you like. But just the reality of every bloke on this planet has a mother, majority might have a sister, a daughter, and they still feel the need to sort of say that stuff and just not understanding that, I don't know statistics, and statistics can be, portrayed to say anything you like. And I get that. But it's overwhelmingly obvious that of all of the extreme examples, but we're not even just talking about that, sure. But if you just separated all the extreme examples, like you were just talking about, they're all portrayed by men. What the violence in the world is portrayed by men. I dare you to come up with an example of a woman that's portrayed, in the media with that level of she attacked a man. Exactly. And that's the point, isn't it?
The only one that comes to mind, and it's not, and I think once again it's the media that probably highlighted it, was the very unfortunate case of Caroline Flack, because I watched that program in the week on Channel 4, and very hard hitting, mate, to be honest. It's I was humming and ahhing whether to like to share my thoughts with two blokes on the phone, but I think like how that was portrayed within the media, if that makes sense, then I'm not so sure if it was blokes, but kind of how that was, no one allegedly, and I sort of don't want to sort of put myself under the bus here when I sort of talk about that, but that in itself, kind of how society and how the media, portrays it, because I think the only one that comes to mind, mate, really, from a bloke, apart from the recent events, is like, well, again, allegedly, like the Stan Collymore stuff and Gascoigne.
Yeah, but what now? I think, sorry, you maybe understood what I'm saying. Think about all the media now, and think about a woman that's perpetrated violence on a man that's been so huge in that sense. It's a daily occurrence, Stuart. It's a daily occurrence that it's men on women rather than the other way around.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, sorry. Well, there isn't any, is there?
And that's the bottom line. And that's why I find it really difficult to sort of defend in any way, shape or form, because this, obviously, the sad, events that, happened with Sarah Everard, it is just like the iceberg top, isn't it? Because what women are now, speaking out about, and clearly that emotion, it is based on every day having to face that, every day having to be, objectified, not feeling safe, feeling like a victim, just walking home. That's what people, I think, need to really, really get their heads around. Is it's not women that perpetrate as a majority, it's men. And so there's something about that. Of course, these people are extreme examples, and you and I can sit there as much as we, would want to obviously say it out loud, is, yeah, but that's not me. Which is what all these blokes are saying. Yeah, but that's not me. But the feeling is there because the majority of blokes don't appreciate what it feels like, and you can't. It's like if we ever had, and we will one day have a conversation and a topic, I'm sure, on Two Blokes on a Phone about racism. You can't pretend to understand what it feels like to be a black man.
Oh,
you can't pretend to feel like what it feels like to be an Asian man, and therefore you can't understand what it feels like to be a woman. So why even pretend?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I've tried to sort of like in current affairs, and like racism and unemployment and alcoholism, the list goes on. But the current conversation, like you said, I'm not a woman. I am a bloke, and it's kind of putting myself in that situation, maybe how I act, how I behave. But you are right, it's that sort of I think it's trying about education and the role that we play, two blokes on the phone play, and sort of raising awareness and being, well, congruent really in the conversation to sort of reach out and say, that people, the keyboard warriors, and stating stuff and saying stuff. That's not, excuse me, that's not the message, is it?
I think it's just been really interesting to watch, you know, seeing loads of stuff, especially sort of like on TikTok, people outpouring. Then you go to the comment section and you see so many blokes going, yeah, but not all men. And it's just like, you've missed the point, fella. You've completely missed the point. No one's saying it was you. It's just, what is it within that psyche that wants, wants to defend? Can't they grasp that the majority of violence is, perpetrated by men? Can't they grasp that as a woman, you feel really, you know, on edge if you're walking home down a dark street, whereas you and I probably wouldn't, unless it was in a certain neighborhood or a certain place. But that's extreme. That's a one-off for us. The normal, thing is, we don't feel like that. We don't have to go, well, I better get my keys out just in case I'm attacked. I better pretend I'm on the phone.
It's
We don't have to do that, Stuart. It's just a fact.
When it's spoken about, and especially when it's, what's the word, sort of, you've directly asked me that question, like I start to think like, well, it's only ever happened once, and nothing to do, like I was kind of in broad daylight, really. I was a little bit scared, and I had to cross the road because I felt a little bit uneasy with potentially I felt like something was going to happen to me with my phone and stuff. But I've never sort of had to think to myself, "Oh, I'm going to get my phone out and have a fake phone call, or have my keys in my hand in my pocket just in case." I can't imagine having to do that day in day out. I just can't. And for people to sort of say these things and to say, "Oh, oh, it's not us." Well, like you said, that's not the point. It's about sort of doing what's right.
It's just been, I think, it then boils down to, so what else apart from, being appreciative and understanding of the situation? I think it's really about just being very, very mindful about, especially, in the evenings and stuff, or even during the day, to be honest, just like other people have mentioned, if you're walking behind a woman, start to think, how does that make her feel? You know what I mean? Or if you're on a bus, don't sit behind, sit in front. If you're, needing to go past that woman, just take that extra effort and cross the road and go ahead and just make it so, so obvious that you're not a threat.
Yeah.
And also, thinking about paying a little bit extra for somebody to get a taxi. But even then, when I'm saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, but why does a woman have to?
Yeah, I think that's.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think that's like the difficult scenario, isn't it? It's like you said, people should, in theory, be safe to walk home. Male and female, be able to, because there's been unfortunate circumstances, sorry, where people have got home in taxis and stuff has happened then as well, hasn't it?
Well, exactly. I was just thinking that as well, and it's just like the reality is, yeah, but why do they have to? It's like you said, 2021. Why is a woman going? Yeah, I can't walk home by myself without feeling it. Or now I have to make sure it's a proper registered taxi. Now I have to, it's just like, what is the world coming to where blokes can't see that?
Yeah, but you've hit the nail on the head, and it's kind of like putting yourself in that position where you're not causing or adding fuel to the fire. Like you've said, like it's definitely something that I'm mindful of. Um, crossing the road or distancing yourself, or so I suppose your body language, your persona. I mean,
because there's lots of different types of blokes out there, and don't get me wrong, the sort of person that will perpetrate that sort of crime doesn't need to be in society. End of. I get that, but it's just this whole social media environment where it's okay to say whatever you like because it's your opinion. It's just like, yeah, but don't you get that your opinion is so outside the norm and is not really helping the situation? I equate it, as somebody else, and I've seen this sort of recently about a slightly variation on this thing, Stuart, but it's almost like saying, right, all blokes are fruit. And then somebody going, Well, you can't call out all bananas. Yeah, I'm a grapefruit. I'm not like that. And it's just like, you missed the point. You've completely missed the point. You know, you're arguing about the wrong thing, you know, rather than really that introspection, looking at yourself. What actions can I take? You know, can I be respectful? Like I said, you know, everybody's got a sister, a mother. You know, I don't know anybody that hasn't got a mother, whether they're in contact with them or, you know, talk to them. You know, everybody had a mother. Everybody's had a grandmother. Everybody's, you know, potentially, you know, got a partner, a wife, a sister. It's just like, what do you want blokes to be saying, thinking, and doing in and around them? It just generally boils down to respect, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the key thing, mate. You know, like respect. I mean, you know, what,
Understanding the situation, understanding how that person might feel. You know, like we're well versed, I think, now in terms of equality and diversity. We know the language, we know what needs to be said. Intellectually, we understand it, but it's still, you know, I can't remember the person that said it, Stuart, but you know, one of my favorite quotes. You know, the biggest journey a man has to take is from here to here, 12 inches from his head to his heart. Stop thinking with your head and going, this is outrageous. Why am I having to stay home at 6 o'clock? Well, nobody said that. It's just Chinese whispers, you know. But why am I being attacked? Well, unless you've done something like that, then why are you feeling so defensive?
yeah.
That's the reality. It's, you need to change it from getting out of your head into your heart. How does that feel? How did that feel if it was your relative,
and,
your friend?
and that's when, you know, the circumstances and the opinions will obviously change. But I think it's that naivety, you know, like I mean, like you said, we'll obviously talk about other stuff in future episodes and some of the things we've mentioned. But in this current one, is, you know, touch wood, like I hope I'm never having to be in and around that personally myself. Of course, I'm not. But the fact that it's not a close family friend or relative to me doesn't mean I still can't behave and act in a way or role model a behaviour that hopefully challenges stigma and educates other blokes. That's something that I'm trying to do on the daily, and I know we both are. You know, sort of, we try and do what's right, but challenging people. And something that you mentioned to me on the another phone call we had, mate, is why. You know, like ask questions. Why? Why do you think like that? You know, why? You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to get in. You really don't want to open that can of worms sometimes online, but when you're faced with it, it's just. I think it boils down to, if you really truly say you respect women, then you need to have a stop and think about how that person is feeling and what is actually, and it is about perspective. You know, again, like, you can't unring a bell, Stuart. Once you've heard that sound, the sound's been heard. It's done.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, hopefully, you know, in the same way, you know, with the Black Lives Matter movement, it wasn't the first incident of a situation like that caused this huge global swell of feeling and emotion. And, you know, we're still trying to figure out what action needs to be taken to make the world a better place when it comes to racism, you know. And I get a feeling now that this is one of those moments where, unfortunately, it's just another moment, but this one might be the one that maybe makes people's eyes open to what the world feels like to be a woman. And I hope it is. I hope at least some people are changing their attitudes and their thoughts about it. And, you know, and I get that people want to protest and stuff. And, you know, I totally get that. You know, it's more to do with its action now, isn't it? And it really always boils down to actions from the likes of you and I.
Yeah, I mean,
Your average bloke.
yeah.
I know you don't like being called that, but you know.
Well, I think with that in mind, not the average bloke, by the way, but you know, the protesting. You know, you obviously want to share messages, and if you stand up for something, and I forgot what the saying is: if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. And you know, I think it's important that, you know, you do believe and stuff. But I'm just like the cycle of, you know, people protesting and it gets heated. And I've never been to a protest in my life. And um, I have been asked actually a few times, and I've been 50-50. I've always been a bit unsure, and kind of how it spirals out of control for violent, you know. And
Oh yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, I know I have not very recently, but a long time ago. Yeah, was at a protest, and I can see how that happens, and it's emotion,
yeah,
and you know, and it is a raw sense of, you know, people feeling frustrated and angry that nothing's going to change.
yeah.
You know,
And then, like you said, you know, it's following on from that. It's about the action, isn't it? You know, like what we do and how you act. And like I said, mate, I mean, bloody hell, I'm 37 in June, and you know, if I think about some of the things, my behaviour, conduct, uh, life in my life across the
yeah,
board, A to Z, it's the knock-on effect, you know, like that, how I pick the ball up, how I move again, action, and that's all I would say to blokes who watch this and listen to this, is that, like you said earlier, if it's purposely like aimed at you and it was you could, you know, even then, like you take action, you move on from it, you hopefully play a part in, you know, rightly or wrongly, you were involved, you wasn't involved, or you accused, falsely accused, whatever it is, you play your role in hopefully fulfilling. I'm not so sure legacy is the right word, but you know, in memory of that individual or individuals, to hopefully ensure that it doesn't happen again. And that's probably my closing statement on that, really.
yeah, which is why I quite like, you know, that not all men, which was obviously being driven by men, being then adapted to, yeah, not all men, but enough.
Yeah, yeah,
It sums it up perfectly. Enough, you know, shouldn't have to feel like this way. You know what I mean? And let's hope by the time, you know, that your daughters are adults and able to walk the streets, that it feels different.
yeah. Well, let's see what tomorrow brings, mate. And see what happens moving forwards.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I just wanted to sort of, you know, difficult. Like I said, and I think, you know, part of what we've got to do in Two Blokes and a Phone is not shy away from difficult topics. And, you know, these are topics that happen every day, and just trying to, you know, just be honest about it. I'm trying to figure out what my reaction is, what I need to do better. I like to think I'm a fairly decent, kind, compassionate bloke, but the reality is something needs to be different.
Yeah, definitely. But with that in mind, then, for those of you that have watched, hopefully you found that one interesting. It's probably one of our first conversations that's been pure sort of enthusiasm and passion. And we obviously want to hear your suggestions on current affairs, topics you'd like us to talk about, because I think it's important that we talk about these things and potentially change the stigma and what blokes think or say or do or talk about. But you know, myself and John pride ourselves on doing the right thing and being good people and helping as many people as we can. So please like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. And John, I quite enjoyed that chat. It's a bit hard hitting, and once again, you know, both myself and John, you know, our respects and condolences do go out to
Indeed. Yeah.
family and friends. But John, thank you for that, mate, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Catch up next week, buddy. Take care.
Bye, mate.